The Big Two had a pretty good week as far as I'm concerned. I read 6 books from Marvel and DC, none of that ultimate garbage. 6 pretty good books from Marvel and DC. Let's talk The Big Two. Howdy, I'm American Texan, and I love comic books, specifically reading comic books. We'll let other channels deal with all the drama out there. Yes, the drama out there from other writers. We're here to look at the books, the art, and enjoy what's between the covers. And even though some people may just be not very good human beings, they actually can be pretty good comic book writers. And we're going to talk about that today. I don't consider myself a reviewer. That's why this is Let's Talk the Big Two. And I'm going to go over the shoulder here, open up these books that I read. I'm a physical reader, and talk about the books that I read this week. So let's go over to the table and let's talk the Big Two. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel for more comic book talks, reviews, haul videos, and everything that's going on in the world of comics, specifically, again, focusing on the comic books and the art themselves. So let's go to the table and let's talk the Big Two. All right, so here we go with Iron Man number 5. This is by Joshua Williamson and Carmen Carnero. And slight spoilers because there's already a big event that happens in the first couple pages. This kind of gives a lot of the feeling of an Ironmonger fight, but what we have here is the Fixer getting some Iron Man tech, putting it together, and basically becomes his own Ironmonger type figure. And within the first few pages here, here's the spoiler I was talking about. Adam, the Iron Man type protege that they were trying to turn into their own, or excuse me, the Tony Stark protege that they were trying to turn into their own type of Iron Man, AIM Iron Man, dies. And so we've got Tony Stark versus the Fixer, and we get a little bit of Tony Stark monologuing, but I think I like the idea that essentially what makes Tony Stark is not the fact that he was in a cave essentially and had to figure his way out. It's the fact of the people around him. And I kind of like that message. He says he had help from teachers. He had help from his dad, although maybe that's a little bit of a retcon. I don't know. Maybe I'm just too confusing him with the MCU version. And then of course he had, Pepper, and he had Happy, and basically he always had people around him. And so Tony's basically saying, you know, the real power of Iron Man is not just Tony, but also the people around Tony. And so the people around him, the Tony Stark award winners, basically help trap Fixer and allow Tony to escape. And then more stuff happens, basically. So the art here was really great. I think the art really holds up to what Williamson's doing. Williamson, at least in the DC stuff that I've read, has fantastic artists behind him, and they did a really good job pairing him with Carmen Carnero. So this does seem to conclude a 5-issue arc instead of a 6-issue arc. There's a nice little epilogue here too. I like this as well because we don't have everything kind of rushed to an end. It does end about halfway, the Tony Stark story, and then there's a couple of different ways that the story ends, and then an epilogue as well. So it almost felt like 2 epilogues, but it was really well done. I like this. It was a little safe. It was a little bit of like the Force Awakens type story where it's echoing some stories that's already been told. It follows some of the same patterns, but overall, I still really liked it. It's not the best Iron Man I've ever read, but it's certainly the best modern Iron Man I've ever read. And that is the only Marvel book. Let's take a look at what I read from DC. Starting with Absolute Batman. This is by Scott Snyder and illustrated by Nick Dragotta. This is the book of the week, and while it is mainly expositional, that's the word, expository, there's a lot of more explaining, and there's some action at the end. I do like the intro we have with the Joker. If you didn't get the idea that the Joker, the Absolute Joker, is basically like the person that is Bruce Wayne. Like the Joker comes from money. He has the Joker cave, so to speak. And here we have he has the dinosaur that's usually in the Bat Cave, the large penny that's usually in the Bat Cave. But here, I love this illustration. Check this out. Boom, look at this. We get the Joker laughing. I think this is amazing. I really, really enjoy this screen here. And I don't want to back out too far because my office is a mess as I continue to try to clean up my office. But we have here some more exposition about how Batman is kind of like now following along the lines of what many I think would know of Christopher Nolan Batman, where he's kind of vilified a little bit towards the end of The Dark Knight, where he's like not the hero that Gotham needs but he's the one that they deserve, or vice versa, the one that they deserve, not the one that they need. Anyways, so he's kind of persona non grata. Is that the right phrase here? We get a little interesting panel here with Harley Quinn and how she has her absolute hammer, so to speak. A little bit more from the Rogues Gallery / Friends Gallery, Absolute Rogues Gallery. So yeah, just a lot of more explaining of what's happening. But the real standout, the real star of this issue is, again, Absolute Scarecrow shows up. And he basically tries to kill, or gets set up to kill, Joe Chill. I don't know if he's like Joe Chill's roommate, or if he's actually trying to, if he just appears and then walks away. Very interesting. And again, we have that symbolism here, or that happening here, where he takes a puff and then blows it into someone's face. And then that's when they start doing bad, horrific things. That's when they get scared. That's when they get anxious or whatever. So I'm surprised no one else, I don't think out of all the chronic online YouTubing and Twittering that I read about comics, I don't see anyone else mentioning this. No one else has mentioned this, and this happens in the first issue where he appears too, which is the last issue, I guess. He takes a drag and then he blows it into the face of the farmers. Well, here he takes a drag and he blows it into the face of the prisoner here, Joe Chill. So, and then Joe Chill tries to end himself to be YouTube safe. So I'm surprised no one else is really, I wouldn't say caught on to that, but no one else is really commenting on that. So it seems like in the Absolute universe, he's taking a puff of the Scarecrow toxin and then blows it into the face, and then they get scared or hallucinatory or whatever. But yeah, Scarecrow is the absolute standout here, even beyond the Robins that we get the first appearance of. So Batman escapes, and then we get this giant mecha Robin, which I don't know. I feel like that's all you need. You need more Robins, but we get a pretty good appearance here of all the different Robins. So that was a little bit more detailed than I usually like to go, but Absolute Batman number 20, definitely recommend. I think it was a great read. Not quite as much Robining as I expected, but it appears like in the next issue, we're going to really get deep into all the Robins. So I'm excited to see that. All right, next up, we got Public Enemy number 1, or everyone's favorite idol, I don't know, Dennis Camp. We've got Absolute Martian Manhunter number 11 by Dennis Camp and illustrated by Jorge Rodriguez. I'm still really enjoying this one. It's becoming a little bit more creepy reading people's comments and reviews on the story about how it's fanatic leftism versus rightism and fascism and whatever else. And really what this story is, to my reading, is nihilism versus hopefulness. Maybe nihilism versus optimism. The Martian Manhunter is very optimistic. Dare I say, the Martian Manhunter is actually based. He's very pro-family. He's very pro-justice. He's very optimistic. And of course, here we have the nihilist here, the nihilist Martian. I can't remember his name, the zero something. And he's very nihilistic. Like, there's no hope. There's no point in trying. So I'm enjoying that story there. Now, some people will take it too far and say like the Martian Manhunter is the happy left and communism is great and everything. And then the nihilism one is the anti-capitalist fascism, like everything is horrible in America. I don't see that. I think that's people reading too much into it. But we have some pretty cool little meta mindscape psychic battling here that continues between the Absolute Martian Manhunter, or I guess the Absolute Martian, and the Zero guy. We get a really fun little clippy thing that, Dennis Camp, I think he's nailing it here. He gets a little thing here where it gets a little 4D, so to speak, where he's like, hey, let's see if you're actually an optimist like the Martian is, and cut out this panel and you won't see the gratuitous violence on the other side. And what we get on the other side is a little flashback of what John went through with his partner and how his partner possibly murdered an innocent family. And we get that shot right here. I like here that there's a little bit of a double entendre here, because the Zero Martian says this was totally avoidable. It works in the story because he's saying, his partner murdered this family and that was totally avoidable, but also he gave you the opportunity to cut that out. And so this panel itself literally was totally unavoidable. I think that's really clever, and I really, really like that. And again, the art just really stands out really well here. We've got the America, and again, the psychic meta. This is not a gun shooting at Martian Manhunter there. I'm really enjoying this. I think it's a lot of fun. Definitely not up everyone's alley, but it's scratching a really unique itch that I have for something that isn't just talking a lot. It's got a lot of the psychic stuff, the meta stuff. The storytelling is crazy. It's kind of based. And I'm enjoying that because, the family is important. John's health, mental health, and family and job are all important. So I'm really enjoying this one. And I know I'm one of the few in our circles, the more conservative comic readers circles, but I am enjoying it. Like what you like, don't like what you like, that's all fine. Again, Dennis Camp would probably not want to be in the same room as me, but that I don't care. I will still enjoy his comic books, at least the one that I'm enjoying. Did not care his Ultimates, did not care for there's another one that I read from him and I can't remember what it was. But anyways, I am super enjoying all this trippy stuff. I think it's a lot of fun. It's a blast to read. One more issue and I'm glad because I think it's going to end on a good note and then we're done. We don't have to watch it fizzle out and die like so many other ongoings. Up next, I've got the Fury of Firestorm. This is issue 2, written by Jeff Lemire and illustrated by Raphael De La Torre. And this is Jeff Lemire returning to the Jeff Lemire that I really enjoy. The last couple books that I've read from him, JSA and Absolute Flash, did not read well to me. I was not engaged. It was not very good. This one is fantastic because it says so much in so few words. And this is a great catch up for people like me who don't know a lot about Firestorm. And so we get a little bit of a flack to the creation of Firestorm. It's slightly different than what I remember. And that, again, might be me confusing it with the CW verse. But we get a backstory on Ronnie Raymond and the professor, Martin Stein. So we get a little bit of Ronnie Raymond's background of how, he didn't have an always present dad and he struggled in school, but he was great at football, and how he connected with the professor trying to impress a girl, but the professor takes him on anyways because he sees potential. There's a lot of hope there, but all this doesn't matter because it's not registering with the current iteration of Firestorm, which is the Firestorm Matrix that's kind of separated himself from Ronnie and the professor. So we get a little bit of a background here, some of their adventures, some flashbacks, but then we find out none of it matters. We get a vertical page turn, which I really enjoy. I like these when they're used sparingly, but they're not even connected to the Firestorm Matrix. He's by himself. And so it's almost a little Ultron-ish, where he's trying to figure out who he is and maybe is against humanity. It's beautifully written. It's beautifully illustrated. I really am loving this book. I'm so glad I picked it up and checked it out, and I'm definitely adding it to my pulls because I am super invested into where this is going now that I have a complete understanding of the history of Firestorm real quick in this issue, as well as where we are right now based on issue 1. I am having a blast with Fury of Firestorm, and I highly recommend. I also read Emperor Aquaman. I'm finally giving up. I'm not just calling it Aquaman. I protested for 2 months, but now it is what it is. Emperor Aquaman, number 17. This was interesting because we got Black Manta on the cover, but Black Manta is only in this for a couple pages. We get him actually being approached. Look at this first page. This is a fantastic first page. Black Manta is being approached to possibly be one of the ways that they can take out Aquaman. And then we just jump to Aquaman doing cosmic stuff. And we get more of Cosmic Aquaman working way better for me in this one than Cosmic Storm did over at Marvel. And so we get a little bit of the Aqua family dynamics, but the real star of the show is Starro. It's Starro, right? Not Jarro. Where they travel to this planet here and they're like, I don't know if we should be here or not. And Starro realizes that they are actually on the Starro planet where Starros are created. We get a little bit of a fun interaction here where, it is Jarro. Jarro tries to take over Aquaman to basically stealth or let Aquaman pass by unnoticed by the father Starro. That doesn't work. And Starro also gets a little taste of the Omega power that Aquaman has. So look at that. There's Father Starro And Jaro's like, I have to kill as many Starros as I can because these are bad guys, and Jaro really wants to help. Man, I hope I'm not confusing you with this. Look at this art. This art is fantastic, wonderful, beautiful, cosmic stuff. And then there's Jaro getting a little taste of the Omega power that is left with Aquaman. This was so fun. It was so silly. It was so comic booky. I was trying to explain it to someone on a stream, and they were like, that sounds like comics. And I'm like, yeah, this is exactly what makes comics great. Jeremy Adams is doing a fantastic job. I can't remember if I credited this. It's by Jeremy Adams, illustrated by John Timms. And it also credits Paolo Vianelli, which I don't know, maybe they did the first chapter here with Black Manta. I'm not sure, or vice versa. But yeah, Emperor Aquaman is so fun. Get the trades starting with Jeremy Adams' run because it is very, very enjoyable, very comic booky, but very enjoyable. Last thing that I read from the big two this week is Action Comics number 1098. And we get the continuation of Booster Gold visiting the past to try to get some answers as far as to where Superman went. And they are also visited by Epoch, a time-traveling villain I don't know much about, but Epoch takes Clark Kent's baby rocket, I don't know what you call it, but the Krypton rocket, and they try to get some answers as far as like, well, where maybe could it be? Can we get some more information about the rocket? And we get a nice little flashback story told of John and Martha Kent finding the rocket and how they had to, they couldn't just explain having a baby all of a sudden. So they submitted it as a found baby, and they were like, there was plenty of other people on the adoption list and we weren't on the list. And there was a very nerve-wracking night where we had to wait to find out if we could even adopt this baby. I really enjoyed that story. And I know Mark Waid has admitted through others that he doesn't care for John and Martha Kent and wishes they were dead. But again, I think this shows how good of a writer, maybe not how good of a person or good of a tweeter that Mark Waid is, but how good of a comic writer that he is, that he can divorce himself from his own feelings and write a great John and Martha Kent story. I think that's really great. As I'm reading through this looks like some filler artist, which I realize now there's a second artist here, Patricio Del Pecci. This was a little bit of this kind of took me out of it because all of a sudden they're Mary Marvel, Booster Gold, and Martian Manhunter, Jeff Johns, they're in their civilian clothes. And then in the next page, they're back into their superhero clothes. We get Mary Marvel back into her superhero outfit. Mary Marvel decides to, enroll with Clark Kent at the school to, shadow and maybe get some more information from Clark Kent, past Clark Kent. And then she ends up wingmanning Clark Kent with Lena, who, of course, he had to ditch on a date in the past. So she wingmans him to make Lena jealous so that way he's not totally lost with that relationship. I thought that was funny. There's more often than not when they do these high school drama, teeny weeny stuff, it's a total miss for me. But this worked. It was cute. It was nice. And maybe that's just because I like Lena more than Lois Lane. And then we get some more information from the time travelers, and Epoch ends up showing up, and then they have to have a showdown. But things aren't quite I'm going to avoid a little bit of a spoiler there. But yeah, things don't quite end up like they expect to, and they have to have a quick battle with Epoch. And there's quite a bit of a twist at the end with where Action Comics is going. And it's a very interesting twist knowing that we're coming up to issue 1100, which I'm assuming is a big landmark milestone issue, but we're going right into 1099 with a very interesting twist to what's happening with past Clark Kent. So I'm enjoying it. I think this is really cool. And again, Reign of the Superboys, I did not think I would resonate with that, but again, DC's doing such a good job managing all this in Superman's absence. I am all in on the Reign of the Superboys, and I really, really enjoyed that. So as far as top 3 books for the week, I read 6 books from the big 2 this week, but tops definitely I think has to be Emperor Aquaman was a lot of fun. Fury of Firestorm, again, was a lot of fun. And between the other ones, I'm going to have to go with, I think Absolute Batman was just memorable. Even though it was mostly expository, I think it was very memorable. So I'm going to go number 3. I'm actually going to go Absolute Batman number 3 because, again, it was a lot of talking and just a little bit of comic booky stuff at the end. Number 2, Fury of Firestorm, because it was so well done. Such a great introduction to the character as well as continuing this new story that we're having. And number 1, because it was just pure comic goodness, Emperor Aquaman number 17. There's my top 3 for the week. So there you have it, some great reads as well as my top 3 this week. I don't know enough people reading Aquaman, but definitely check it out. I've never been an Aquaman fan. I thought it was a joke of a character, but reading Jeremy Adams' Aquaman, he's kind of a cool guy. And now that he's got the cosmic powers, highly, highly recommend. And of course, everyone's talking about Absolute Batman. You don't need me to tell you how good it is. And Fury of Firestorm, if you have not checked it out, wonderful art, fantastic Lemire style of writing, back to what makes Lemire great, and definitely recommend that, as well as the other books that I read. I mean, I didn't read a bad Big 2 book. I did read a bad indie book, and I will be talking about that next in my Let's Talk Indies review video coming out hopefully tomorrow. So thank you guys for watching. Like this video if you like this video, and let's nerd out in the comics. If you read something else in the Big 2, let me know. I'd love to learn more about what's out there that's good, that's worth reading. Again, I appreciate your time and attention, and I'll see you all in the next video. Adios.